Hi everyone, Mary here for the Diasporic Nigerian. Today I'm downtown Toronto at one of Tiiwa Africa's meetups. Tiiwa is a group of young Africans in the diaspora whose work is to support initiatives that will lead to the development of Africa. Today's meetup actually features Chizoba Imoka, who's a PhD student at OISE Toronto and also the CEO of Unveiling Africa. So right now I'm actually with Kenechi from Tiiwa. So tell us what Tiiwa means to you.
Tiiwa to me is a community of young Africans that are creating a space to be part of the development of the African continent. So young professionals that are passionate about where the continent is going and what young professionals like themselves are going to be doing to impact development on the continent. That's what Tiiwa means to me.
Okay. And what is your role on Tiiwa?
I am part of the event planning committee, so I assist with planning of social events and sometimes the meetups and promoting. Right now it's a small team because we're growing the community, so I assist wherever I can, but my focus is on planning the upcoming social events that you guys are going to be hearing about soon. So
okay, so are you going to give us a clue what this next event is going to be?
I don't know if I can talk about it, but it's going to be lit.
Well, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it. All right, so right now I'm with Adure, who participated in today's event. So why did you decide to attend this event today?
So I'm generally passionate about growth and development in Africa, and I've just been looking for initiatives or ways to be part of it. So other than starting an initiative myself, I felt like going into something that's more structured per se, and obviously having different perspectives can really expand my mind as to, okay, what are the problems that exist and how do they exist in other people's minds? What are solutions other African countries have possibly come up with that even in Nigeria we can kind of model after, and just have a conversation going, meet networks, and just engage in that sense, really.
And what was your favorite part of today's event?
I think I was just really mind blown with Dr. Chizoba's conversation. She really opened up my mind to decolonization, which is just something I never thought about. So learning our history prior to being colonized, and what it really means to be African, knowledge systems, our ways, and so our patterns are not necessarily referring, even though this might not be politically correct, but the white man's way, using that as a reference point for things that, just using that as a standard, because our ways and our traditions, also existed. So how did our ancestors solve problems? How did the economies exist before, quote unquote, the white man came? And using that as a reference point to live, as opposed to just being like accustomed to something that you weren't even necessarily brought into, like, they came into your country really and taught you a certain way to think. So thinking independently as an African, really. So yeah, that was definitely, so I'm definitely going to look into what life was like pre-colonization and what my ancestry, I've been trying to actually trace back my ancestry 10 years back. My uncle was successful to trace it 5 years back. So we're very Igbo. So that was really cool to know. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Diasporic Nigerian today. All right, take care. So right now we're with Fumbi and Toluwa, and they're just going to be talking to us about how Tiiwa started. So how exactly did Tiiwa start?
So it's kind of an interesting story. Fumbi and I were looking for a way to get involved in African development, and one night we were on a call, we were looking up different tabs, searching online, trying to find something, but we couldn't find anything. The things we found were either not in our area, not in Toronto, or they were ridiculously expensive, that we were like, this is definitely not for us. And we knew a bunch of our friends, we've had conversations before where people were interested in African development, so we did know that group was out there, and we just wanted to find a way to get those people together and build that community. Mm-hmm. And so since we couldn't find it, we thought we might as well start our own. Yeah.
And I know you've had a couple of meetups here in Toronto. Do you plan to keep it just Toronto centric, or is this something that's supposed to be, I guess, global at some point?
Mm-hmm. Definitely global. That's the dream. But yeah, we're starting off here because this is where we are. But yes, even across Canada, that's something that we could potentially do next, and especially within Africa, because even though we are Africans, we are still removed from the continent. because of where we are right now. So our dream really is to bring this as close to home as possible, where people who would be impacted by this would be able to I guess like work as close to the problem as possible, if that makes sense.
And I know on your website you have like meetups and you have labs. So what's the difference between a meetup and a lab?
So one of the things that we thought of when we started out was that we didn't just want to keep having conversations, because we have these conversations all the time about what can we do about Africa. And so we said we needed to have an arm, like that's what we call it, a different arm of Tiiwa that is focused especially on providing practical support. So the meetups is where we create the environment for people to build community, so meet other people who are like-minded, get inspired by the speakers that we bring. But labs is more hands-on. So we have projects that run for a specific amount of time. We get volunteers who and partner with an African-based organization. So they have to be, the organizations we partner with have to be doing something that's targeting Africa's development and have a specific challenge that they would like the Tiiwa Labs team to solve. And then we get volunteers who have those skills required to build that thing. And for a period of time we do that and we kind of hand it off to the sponsor of the project. And basically what we want to do is actually provide a way to move these organizations forward as much as we can, so that we know that we're contributing directly to the change that's happening.
So today's speaker is Chizoba. How did you folks find Chizoba and why was she the pick for today's event?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I actually just messaged her and she agreed. So I know her through a friend of a friend. It's a really long story. So I was looking for speakers for the meetup, and her name came up, and she has a TED talk on historical consciousness. I looked that up. I watched it. It's about 17 minutes long, and I was like, yeah, she gotta come. And so I sent her a message and I was like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're trying to do. I also looked her up before then, and Chizoba actually her work it fits perfectly within what Tiiwa was trying to accomplish. So she also is looking to equip Africans to be change makers within the continent. So yeah, that's how I found her. And what was the other part of the question? Yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us on the Diasporic Nigerian today. Hopefully we'll get a chance to just partner up together and do more events for Africa. Thank you so much for joining me on the Diasporic Nigerian today. If you like what you see, make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, repost, and do whatever you need to do to spread this word out there. And I'll see you on the next video.